One Piece chapter 953, Once Upon a Fox. Very excited about this chapter. I mean, the last chapter was fine, but I had great expectations for this chapter. And honestly, I was not disappointed. This chapter was freaking amazing. But before we get into the chapter, let's talk about the cover story, because we know it's the Capone gang beige and they're trying to find Lola. Chiffon is trying to find her sister, and we've made some developments. We know that they're on the way to Thriller Bark now. Thriller Bark is no longer there, obviously. And we know Lola, the last time we saw her, she was in Water 7. So now they're probably going to go to Water 7, get a new ship, and then somehow stumble into Lola. I'm excited for these cover stories because they add some more depth to the One Piece story, because again, these are canon. Like, this is an actual canon cover story, and these matter for the actual story of One Piece. So pay attention to these cover stories when these things are happening, not the fan request and things like this. So this is good information about what Lola or what Capone and Chiffon are doing. Now on to the chapter. How the last chapter left off, I was not as happy. I felt like it was a solid chapter, of course, but I felt like it was missing something. I don't want to say it felt forced, but it felt somewhat typical. It didn't feel seamless. Like, the transitions weren't smooth. We were going from scene to scene, and it felt like Oda was just checking some points to just get things done. This chapter was not like that. It paced beautifully. I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first saw Kawamatsu was in the beginning of this chapter, my heart sank a bit because I did not care about Kawamatsu at all. I felt like Kawamatsu was a character that Oda brought in for us to care about him, and I did not care anything about him even after his meetup with Hiyori. Like, why should I have cared back then? This chapter, as we go through everything, we saw exactly how much Kawamatsu cared about Hiyori and how much he was willing to risk for Hiyori. So we know the story. Kawamatsu was protecting Hiyori, and Hiyori ran away from Kawamatsu. And in this chapter, we saw the letter that Hiyori left for Kawamatsu. Beautiful handwriting, by the way. I was actually wondering why Gyukimaru was able to get away from Zorro. Like, how exactly did that happen? But we have to think about this, guys. If Gyukimaru goes a certain way and Zorro can't see him anymore, like if he makes a left and Zorro tries to make a left, Zorro is not going to find him. We know how Zorro is with directions, because Zorro's like, oh, he got away. I did not expect Zorro to find this man. That's why if Zorro was not with Hiyori, he would never make it back to that bridge at all. So this makes sense that he was not able to catch Gyukimaru. I think Oda did a masterful job of driving the point home in regards to Kawamatsu's and Hiyori's relationship. You see that Kawamatsu still views Hiyori as a little girl because that's the last time he interacted with her. So him acting that way is not surprising, and Hiyori's reaction to all of it is priceless as well. It's also beautiful that Kawamatsu did not tell Hiyori exactly what he planned to do, which was to commit seppuku, because he was feeling terrible about everything that transpired. Like, his only duty was to protect Hiyori, and ultimately he failed, so he was going to take his own life. One of the more interesting things from the chapter is finding out about the Shimotsuki. Of course, Shimotsuki is the name of Zoro's village, and I think Shimotsuki, this last name, this renowned family, is going to be more important going forward. And even my friend Ali, she gave me some information as far as like what she think happened with the Shimotsuki, and that Zoro's sensei took him away to protect him because the Shimotsuki, of course, they were destroyed by Kaido. They said even Ringo became a wasteland by Kaido's hand. So we know Ringo was ruled by the Shimotsuki. The weird thing, though, is that we find out that the daimyo's name was Shimotsuki Ushimaru, and he was a master swordsman, and he had a fox at his side at all times. So essentially, Ringo, when people are buried, or when these master swordsmen are buried, like, their graves are marked by their swords. So that leads to a lot of grave robbers to come for these famed swords. And Kawamatsu was saying that's the state of Ringo right now. But we can't forget the fox that we were talking about for the Shimotsuki was protecting the shrine this entire time. So when Kawamatsu went back to, seppuku himself, he found that the fox had been protecting the shrine for 5 years. It was a beautiful way to dialogue this and to show the progression of this, because at that point he had to nurse the fox back to health, right? Because the fox had been protecting it for so long. He was at his wit's end, gave the fox some food, but he tried to explain to the fox the reason why he would try to get the blades from the graves. It was interesting because when you viewed from both perspectives, the fox had been doing that for 5 years. So for this guy, even though you helped me, you're going against everything I had been fighting for. But then Kawamatsu explained the reason why he was taking these swords out of the graves. He was saying that the swords were going to be needed for the Battle of Wano between the Beast Pirates and, of course, the Alliance. And going forward, when the time comes, the Alliance, they're going to need weapons. So this was great foresight by Kawamatsu to put aside weapons, or to save weapons that he knew the Alliance would need. Like, that was amazing. What was interesting here is that he went into the lore of swords, right? And then he was saying, like, the spirits that reside within the swords, that's what make the samurai powerful, and it gives them the power to defeat their enemies. I don't want to read too much into that and say that a lot of these swordsmen, they're only powerful because they're using strong swords and their spirits within the swords. However, I think this is letting you know that swords do matter. Having powerful swords do enhance your fighting capabilities, especially if you're inheriting the will of whoever like wielded the sword before, if they were somebody known. And that even impacted and highlighted the end of this chapter, which was amazing. Again, Kawamatsu's entire dialogue talking about everything that happened with him and Iori and saying he couldn't protect Iori. So if he wants to take his arm, you can do it. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because this is what I believe in. And I know it's going to ultimately help our alliance and bringing back Wano, restoring Wano to greatness. One thing that was also pointed out was that the graves, because they're so cold where they are. So then the speculation is, could Moria actually come to Wano and use some of these corpses with his devil fruit? Now, personally, I think Moria has to come to Wano because his story is so much intertwined with the Kaido pirates or the Beast pirates. After interacting with Blackbeard, when we saw in chapter 7 or 926 around there, what is his purpose now? Of course, we don't know the story, but for Moria coming to Wano, it would fulfill so many things. One, I think Blackbeard is still searching for devil fruit, so sending Moria there would say, hey, go and see if you can find any devil fruits for me. Two, you could avenge your entire crew getting decimated by Kaido by actually going to Wano and, I don't know, trying to fight Kaido again. Of course, that doesn't make sense because you were even beaten by Luffy, who, I mean, that really doesn't matter. But for him, I wouldn't think you would be thinking rationally after someone eradicated your crew. So him going to Wano to avenge his crew. And then finally, purpose. Like, there's nothing left in the story for Moria to do than to tie this whole storyline up with Kaido. So for me, I think that makes the most sense right now. We also have to point out in this chapter when Kawamatsu was having his speech with the fox, after he said everything, he was like, oh, the fox understood me, which was interesting to me. So Kawamatsu, to protect his identity and to also scare away grave robbers, he took on the persona. He created this persona of Gyukimaru of Ohagi Bridge. Now remember, Gyukimaru of Ohagi Bridge right now, real time, exists, and he's still doing things and taking weapons from people, but obviously that can't be Kawamatsu because he was locked up. So who the hell is Gyukimaru right now? When he gets back, because he had been arrested and captured for 13 years. It said that he was to meet Mr. Fox or try to meet with Mr. Fox. At that point, for me, made it obvious. Gyukimaru was the fox, but how does this work? What happens here? How is the fox Gyukimaru? First off, he found a shrine with all the weapons. So Gyukimaru, or the fox, Onimaru, had kept collecting weapons. And we knew Gyukimaru, every time he went to the bridge, he was collecting weapons to store for the actual cause. We saw at the end of the chapter, it was a fox that transformed into an actual human. But what is it? We already have the human fruit. We already have the Nine-Tails Fox mythical Zoan fruit from Katarina Devon. So what devil fruit do you guys think Onimaru has? I think the most hype part of the chapter, I'm not going to say the best, but the most hype was when Hiyori asked Zorro to give her back Shusui, or give Shusui back to Wano, and she offers a replacement, the famous blade Enma. And Enma, based on the translation, says God of Hell in Buddhism. The dialogue here that was interesting is her saying that it was the legendary blade that managed to give Kaido his one and only scar. This has been speculated for so long. Whoever gave Kaido the scar, said Whitebeard, Kainu, Rayleigh, another admiral, Shanks, a lot of speculation. Now knowing that Oden gave this to Kaido, how do we feel about Oden? How does our thought process change? The fact that someone on Roger's crew was able to give Kaido this scar speaks not only to his pirate crew, but to the fact that Oden is and was a very skilled swordsman, a very powerful person. You know, Kaido, like, he is the world's strongest thing, and Oden was able to scar him back then. So how strong is Oden? Which will be an actual topic on the channel for sure. But the next question is, should Zorro give up Shusui? It was stated that the loss of Shusui, actual downfall of Wano, or that's how Gyukimaru viewed it. And things are just so much more different now when we know Gyukimaru is actually a fox. Gyukimaru was laying down some facts for Zorro, and it would make sense that Gyukimaru has some more information about Black Blades because his partner was the daimyo of Shimotsuki, or the daimyo of Ringo. There's a lot of speculation with Zorro being tied to the Shimotsuki, and I expect more going forward in regards to Zorro and this Tanach. It's just a lot of ties coming in, and I like how Oda is doing it. He's taking his time, this chapter, and giving us information slowly and surely for us to put the pieces together, and you have to love it. It felt like an old chapter, like an older chapter where Oda takes his time, gives his backstory, fleshes everything out, and then boom, at the end, give us some hype stuff. That's what it felt like. The last thing I want to point out, and this was tweeted by @D_Kumi, Kumii, said in the color spread for chapter 937, Zoro is looking at a sword with a kanji for Enma. There's even a shrine dedicated to Enma in chapter 950. The very same sword is mentioned in chapter 953 and is said to have left a scar in Kaido's indestructible body. Very slick Oda. So Oda had been planning this for a while in regards to Zoro. Now, should Zoro take the sword? No, I don't think he should. And there's multiple reasons why. And I think I'll get into that in a separate video. But I think at this point, Zoro should remain and hold on to Shisui. Enma should probably go to Momonosuke or remain in the Kozoki family. Just giving it to the strongest person that you meet, Hiyori, I don't think it makes sense. Of course, Zoro has saved you, has saved Toko. Still, I think it should remain in Wano for the actual people of Wano to see as like a semblance of good luck, of hope. So I think that's actually what happens. But guys, give me your thoughts. How did you feel about this chapter? A very, very good chapter in my eyes. I think Oda outdid himself with this one, giving us the lore of the swords and not giving us too much, giving us just enough to progress the story forward. So again, leave your thoughts below. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe for more content like this and follow me at BragoDAce on Twitter, at BragoD.Ace on Instagram. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.